So you guys have already built a standard queue, right? Queue is a data structure made of nodes. Queue has a head, a tail, or a back, and a reference to the front. Okay. The nodes are linked thusly. All right. So here's a visualization of the queue data structure. You can enqueue items onto the back of the queue and dequeue them from the front of the queue. Okay. A priority queue is a type of queue, but instead of simply removing nodes from the front, you remove nodes based upon their priority. So our node structure needs to change. So our typical node has a data property, which is generic node, we'll just say it's the type T, underscore data. And there's another node we'll call next. We're going to create a new type of node called a priority node. And priority node is going to inherit from the node class. So it is a type of node. It's got a data and a next, just like any other node. But it also has a double for priority. So this is the high level. So the way the priority queue looks, it still has a back and a front. So we can create 3 nodes in the queue if we wanted. But each node has an associated priority. So we have A, B, and R. 7, 1, 8. They'll have a listed priority. And a priority queue has methods EQ minimum, EQ maximum. DQ min finds the element with the smallest priority and removes it from the queue. So if I call DQ min on this priority queue, it should return this node's data, R, because its priority is the smallest in the structure. If I call DQ max on my priority queue, it should return B. Okay? Because B is the node that has the largest value. Okay? On top of that, you can queue and dequeue items as normal. So you can just dequeue, and that'll just pull from the front. And when you queue a node, you give it data and a priority. Of course, because now our node accepts a priority as well. So the queue is different than the priority queue. But a priority queue is also a type of queue. So there's some things it'll share with its base class queue. Any questions about the concept of a priority queue or any of these 4 methods?
No, but going back to inheritance, actually remember, I wasn't trying to import nodes when nodes the parent or the child class. I was trying to combine linked lists with
there's no reason why you couldn't do that. You could have your linked list class
I used, yeah, I'm gonna run it now. It was actually.
inherit from point.
Yeah, I was using the, built-in, linked list that .NET has. And with that, I was able to, I guess, like, combine the point and the list class. But I wasn't, able to do it with the linked list, class that we made.
So in C#, this means your linked list is now a type of point. So our point class has members like X and Y, right? If you inherit from the point class, you're really just adding these two members to the linked list. And what does X and Y mean to a linked list? Doesn't really mean anything. So making it a type of point isn't a really good relationship to have to a linked list. You can have a linked list of points, right? So once we learn generics, right? Once we could make a linked list of any type, if we wanted, when we create our linked list, we could pass it the point type, and now we can have a linked list of points.
Yeah, that's what I would need with .NET.
Right. That's because it's a generic linked list. We make these for ourselves. Could still contain points because it uses the object type, which could hold anything. So when you call add for your linked list and pass it a point, whatever that point instance was, you're just adding that to the object, right? So again, in this case, this linked list contains points. That's a different type of relationship for data structure. It can contain items too. Other questions about the priority queue, methods, or the concept of how a priority queue works?
Would this queue method here overload the previous, like the parent queue, or is that a brand new one so it can use both?
So in this case, our child class has methods that our parent class doesn't have. A standard queue wouldn't have a DQ, min, or max. Where there's a conflict for DQ, the child class has a choice. It could not implement DQ and just use the parent method. That wouldn't work because the parent method uses a node, but the child class uses a priority node. So the child class would have to, the child class would have to implement its own DQ method to work with the parent node. I mean, to work with its own priority node. Good question. Any others? So let's look. So I built one of these, and here's a generic node class that you've all been using so far. Close out the others. Right? You've got its fields, its data, its next property, its next field. And we'll see a new access specified. It's called protected. And we'll talk a little bit later about protected methods. But now I'm just going to make this part. So, here's the generic node class that you guys already have. It's got properties to access the data in the next field. Here's our constructor, the two constructors. There's one for new data, and just a blank constructor that sets data to its default. Okay? Pretty vanilla. A priority node class inherits from priority key. The way we do that is by using a colon after the class name. So after the class name, you type in a colon, and then you put the class that you want to inherit from. So now, the priority node will inherit its behavior from the generic node. So it is a type of generic node. We can see I added a new field, priority, and I redefined the next field so that it holds a priority node. If I didn't do this, it would pull the data from the parent class. All right, let's look at both of these. So if I got rid of its definition for its own node next, it's going to use the parent's next. The parent's next is a generic node. It's not a priority node. Okay? Because a priority node is a type of generic node, that could work. But if you notice here, my property is trying to return a priority node. And next is a generic node because it's referring to the parent's generic node. So I'm getting this error here, that my generic node is inaccessible due to its protection level. My generic node is private data. So I'm going to give the child node its own next with its own type of node. The other issue is here, we have the data. Now, I do want to inherit the data property from the parent, but the trouble is, data is private. That means I can't use it outside of this class. Now, if I make it public, right, that'll fix my issue, but now I can't protect data anymore, right? Once I create a node, I can just change this data willy-nilly. So there's a special access specifier called protected. Protected means I'm private, but I'm available to any class that derives itself from me. So now I can refer to the parent's data if I inherit from the parent class or the base class. So I don't have to implement data. I don't have to implement the data property because it also uses the data. And I don't have to implement these constructors. I have my own constructor. So we can see the priority node class is a little bit smaller than a generic node class because it didn't have to re-implement things that the parent class already did. Any questions about the